Well, after last week's far from satisfactory visit to a crowded commercial, I've found myself a quiet place. It's an old clay pit. The clay was excavated, I understand, to build dikes in the area, in this fenland area. So that dates it. I don't know the date, but it's a very old lake. It's a natural lake. I did fish it about 10 years or so ago and didn't catch much, so I'm not, expecting great things. But what I have got here is some peace and quiet. There are two other anglers on the lake. When I came to look at it last Friday, in fact, there was nobody on the lake. And I had a chat with one of the guys who manages it, and quite amazingly he remembered me. I had spoken to him when I came here, as I say, about 10 years ago. I'd actually cycled here, not fishing, and I was talking to him, and he remembered that conversation, which was quite amazing, really. As I say, it's a natural lake. It has had some carp put in it, and there is a small group of carp anglers who fish here, and the people here this morning, I think, are carp anglers, but it's not stuffed with carp, and I'm certainly not expecting to catch them, and I'm not actually looking for them, because there are some big ones in here. But I also understand it's got a good head of tench, albeit it's a bit early in the season for that. Anyway, I've just settled in a spot, and I've plumbed up, and it is incredibly deep near the edge. But there's also an awful lot of bottom weed. It was pulling up on my plummet, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to fish. There were some cabbages under the surface, which I thought might be a good spot to start, but I almost lost the plummet when I put the plummet down there, so I'm steering clear of those at the moment. So anyway, we've plumbed up, and I'm ready to start. I've put a bit of hemp and corn in. The last time I fished here, as I say, 10 years ago, I caught a few small roach and small rudd, so nothing special, and I'm not expecting anything terribly special today. But as I say, what I am expecting and what I've got is some peace and quiet. Lovely natural environment, plenty of wildlife, absolutely superb. So we'll see how we go. Okay, well, after I made that brief introduction, a guy walked past, and I was talking to him, and I said there was seemed to be an awful lot of weed at the bottom of this lake, and he confirmed that was the case. He said there's a very thick layer of silkweed on the bottom of the lake, so what he was suggested was you need to let the bait sink very slowly, and if possible have a buoyant bait, which may be a bit of a challenge for me because I only bought sweet corn today and cheese paste, neither of which are particularly buoyant. Anyway, I'm just moving my dropper shot up the line so that the last few feet of the line will sink very slowly, and we'll see what happens. As you can see on the other bank, I was going to fish over there actually. I came here last Friday to check the place out, and there was nobody here, and I quite fancied a spot over on that bank, but they seem to be quite serious guys over there with carp nets, so the last thing I want to do is invade their territory, so to speak. I'll stay out the way. We've got plenty of open water here, so we'll see if anything transpires. It's always interesting fishing a new lake. You just don't know what to expect, but I've got trees in the water on both sides, which are nice features. And just over on the left there, you can see under the surface there's a big bed of cabbages, which would have been an ideal place, I would have thought, to start fishing, but unfortunately I put the plummet down there and nearly lost it. So there's obviously a lot of weed on the bottom of this lake, so Well, that was not very good, was it? The trouble is it's a long length of line between the float and the hook, so it tends to whip a bit. But yeah, I really don't know what to expect here. Well, the dropper shot has now settled, the float settled down a bit, so the last bit is now dropping slowly, hopefully. But maybe I'll have to try fishing sort of off the bottom rather than, well, obviously if there's a thick layer of silkweed on the bottom, it's probably not worth trying to fish on the bottom. So the hope is that this bait is settling on top of the weed, but I remember back when I fished it about 10 years ago, didn't catch much really, but and I remember then making a note in my diary that there was a lot of weed in the lake, and the people managing the lake really couldn't keep pace with it, and no doubt it's a lot worse in the summer. The guy I was just speaking to said you get a lot of lily pads in the summer, which would be nice. I like fishing to lily pads. Always seems a good spot to, or a good feature to fish to. So yeah. Well, there was nothing ravenous enough to grab the bait on the way down, was there? Let's see what happens, see if we've got any weed on the hook. No? So, oops, it's a bit awkward to cast because I've got this shot sort of midway and it's causing the thing to flip about a bit. There we go. The guy I spoke to last week when I was saying about fishing here, and he said it is difficult. It's not an easy lake to fish, and he said it can take some time to get the fish feeding. So the thing is, if I've put in a bit of hemp and I've put in some sweet corn, but if there's that amount of silkweed in the bottom, it's just going to disappear into that, and so I'm not quite sure how you get the fish feeding if you can't put a layer of bait down there to attract them. I assume it's a matter perhaps of just putting it in every so often and hoping that the shoulder fish happen to notice. But as I say, I would have preferred to fish near those cabbages, but I think if I nearly lost the plummet, putting a hook down there would be probably very unwise. I think there's a blue van over there. I think that's the guy I spoke to last week. So let's try putting some more bait in around the hook, see if anything transpires. It's probably why this place isn't too busy. It's probably too difficult for people. There's a bit of a breeze coming from behind me today, so it'll test out my little furry thing that I've put over the microphone on this camera to see if it cuts down the wind noise. So it'll be a good test for that. I think they said the wind is southerly today, so it's not particularly cold, but there again it's not actually a particularly warm day. And if this thing is about 8 foot deep just there, then the water down there is not going to have warmed up at all. If this, if fishing deep here doesn't work, what I might try is to go over to those cabbages and actually fish at mid-water. See if there are any roach swimming around in the mid-water region, because I'm not terribly sure that I'm going to be able to attract them on a bed of silkweed. Seems unlikely. I can hear that wind whistling over my ear, so it certainly will be a good test of this camera. I may find when I get home you can't hear anything I'm saying, but we'll have to wait and see. This has all been laid out obviously for people to walk around. It's not just a fishing lake, and it's actually, I think it got a grant. They've got anti-otter fencing all the way around it, which is quite impressive. As you probably just heard, it's also very popular for walking one's dog. Dogs seem to love anglers. I think they love the bait we use, to be honest, but they go straight to the anglers. I think they can smell luncheon meat from 100 metres. You will notice we have geese here, but we have lots of other wildlife as well, so it's not too bad. Yeah, this is, as I say, I'm not having terribly positive thoughts about fishing at this depth and on top of silkweed, so perhaps I'll give it a bit longer, but perhaps I'll try something else. Fishing mid-water, throwing in some hemp, see if I can pull some roach up. The other thing about here is there is a car park. It's a little car park, but on the right-hand bank over there, where they're fishing, there's a gravel sort of bridleway or roadway almost that you can, if you want, take the car in and drive along to the spot. But you need a code, but they gave me that when I bought the season ticket. So I think this bit could be quite good in the summer if there's tench here. Well, there are tench here because I've been told there are tench here, but could be quite good. Anyway, I'll stop the video, but I may just dabble around and try a different approach, and if it works, I'll come back and let you see. Well, it's midday and I've moved because I just didn't feel right in that other place. I was fishing very deep on obviously a bed of silkweed. There were really no features to the swim, so I did try a bit of bread, thinking it would sink more slowly and lay on top of the weed, but that didn't produce anything. I tried putting a few bits of bread on the surface, see if there were any rudd or roach coming up, but that didn't do anything either. So I've moved literally just one spot along, and I've now got a swan coming to visit me, which isn't very clever. There's still silkweed on the bottom, as you can see on my hook. So I don't really know whether this is going to be any better here than where I was before. The difference is though that there I can see some cabbage leaves under the surface, which is normally a good indicator of perhaps roach being around. And I'm only fishing, as you can see, about, I don't know, 3-4 foot deep, which makes me feel a bit more confident than being 8 foot down in this cold water. So yeah, I'll probably stick here. It's got a bit more feature to it. It's as you can see, there'll be a reed bed here in the summer, and as I say, there are sunken cabbages basically out where my float is, so it's worth a try. But one of the guys on the right hand bank has left. He obviously gave in, although I think he was probably fishing for carp. So yeah, but it's lovely and peaceful here, lovely and natural. I'd much rather catch nothing here than at that commercial where I was last week, among all the talking and what have you. I would have thought there was a chance of getting roach feeding. Basically, they feed in any temperature almost. There's a few little sort of disturbances on the surface, which are probably quite small fish. I bought some seedy bread. It was really the leftovers of the loaf, so it's nearly a week old, so it's not the best to put on a hook. Perhaps I should have bought some fresh bread, and by pinching it appropriately you can get it to sink very, very slowly. And that might have been a better bet today. Try a bit more bait in. Oops. Trying not to move the float, but didn't succeed. It's always a bit of an irony with fishing that with the close season, which these days is mainly applied to rivers, it starts just when the river fishing is really at its best. Really, we've got through the floods of the winter, and the rivers are finding down, and the fish are looking for food. Interesting, there's a few bubbles coming up here. I know there are tension here, but beyond my wildest dreams that could be what's causing them. Anyway, yeah, it's a bit of an irony really that we have to stop fishing the rivers just when they're at their best. So we shift over to the lakes, and quite frankly, lakes are not really at their best at this time of the year. I always think lakes are great in the summer, classic sort of June morning, when of course you can get back to the rivers. So it's a bit of a conflict really. But I think I will be trying this in the summer, because once the lily pads appear and the features start sort of well, nature starts growing again, it'll be quite an interesting lake really. But I'm obviously not doing very well at the moment. It's got that sneaking feeling about it that it might rain, which is exactly the opposite of what the forecast said. And I didn't bring a coat today, so that may cut short everything. I said earlier that I'd brought some old bread with me. Well, I squeezed some out as ground bait. I wetted it and threw it in, and of course some of it didn't sink. And my friend here has now arrived, and he's very persistent. He's going to eat the float now, probably. Oh no, he's going down to find. Oh my God, he's going down to pick the bait up off the bottom. Would you believe it? Oh dear, dear, dear. Well, I'm not sure that's done the fishing any good. Would you believe it? No, go away, go on. They're certainly very resourceful creatures, swans. He's obviously found some of the corn and that. Oh, look at that, look at all that silkweed he brought up. It just goes to show how much there is on the bottom. Quite fascinating really. He's acting as an explorer for me. Well, what's down there then? Eh? Whether this will improve the fishing or completely destroy it is another matter. Not that I was catching anything anyway, so it's quite fascinating watching him. I saw him last week. God, there were a couple of them apparently, but I saw him last week, and I remarked to the guy who's one of the sort of managers here, and I remarked on the colouring on the swan's head. I thought it might be that it had only recently sort of changed from a cygnet, which seemed unlikely at this time of year. And he said no. He said there are two of them here, and they both got that colouring, which I hadn't seen before. Anyway, if you're interested in nature study, this is a good day for you. If you want to see fish, it may not be. Yeah, he's obviously found. Even if the fish can't find the corn and the hemp, I'm sure this guy has. He's picking up something down there. Gee whiz. Well, they say raking a swim is good for tench. Whether a swan ripping up all the silkweed to find my corn is good, I'm not sure. Well, it's 1:30 and I've moved again. The swan came back and once again cleaned up everything I'd thrown into that last swim. Turned it over completely. Didn't seem to be at all concerned when I tried to shoo it off, just ignored me basically. So I've moved down a little bit further alongside a reed bank now, and I'm fishing quite close really. Trouble is it's been spitting rain on and off, and I didn't bring a coat, so I don't mind sort of sitting in this as it is at the moment, but if it gets any heavier I'm afraid I might have to pack up, so a bit unfortunate. Don't rely on the weather forecast. Well, it's 2 o'clock, still nothing doing, but there's plenty to watch on this lake. Great variety of bird life. There's a bird in the reeds over there. I can't quite work out what it is. It's looks like an overgrown sparrow with a black head. But, I'll have to check the books when I get home. But what's lacking at the moment is fish life. We've got the bird life, but I've set the float or set the depth shallower and see if that makes any difference, but it doesn't. I tried fishing further out along the reeds, further out, a bit further away, but didn't do any good either. So I'm not sure we're going to succeed today. But really it's been a matter of checking the lake out. I've ended up trying 3 swims, which wasn't my original intention, but this is actually quite a good spot here in the summer, fishing by the reeds. Perhaps it would be more rewarding. Well, as you can see, my friends, the Canada geese, are in full voice. Oh, that's good, they're going. But that wasn't the reason I switched on. It's starting to rain a bit heavier. I've got no umbrella, I've got no coat, and I haven't had a bite so far, so I think that's probably the cue to pack up. It's been an interesting few hours. I've learnt a bit about the place, mainly that there's a lot of weed on the bottom, and also that there isn't a great number of small fish anxious to take my bait, but it was interesting. Anyway, as I say, I'm not particularly want to get wet as well, so I'm going to pack up now. So at least it was somewhere different for you to see, and I hope you enjoyed that much anyway, and also the swan antics. But it's time to say thank you for watching, and goodbye for now.